How's it going, everyone? My name is Patrick with the Diabetes Management Group, and today we're going to talk about meal replacement shakes. Are they worth it for people with type 2 diabetes? Are they not worth it for people with type 2 diabetes? Is it a scam? Or how can we use it to benefit us? So, the main thing to consider with meal replacement shakes is to determine one's circumstances. Has someone received a bariatric surgery where part of their stomach is removed? Have they had other conditions where they just cannot chew foods appropriately, that they would require food in more of a liquid form? Then yes, using the meal replacement shakes would probably be better in those situations and cases. But the struggle with meal replacement shakes in those situations is the satiety component. So how full we feel and for how long. Generally, whenever someone decides to blend up their food or have more of a meal shake as the replacement, it generally lacks the ability to satiate us when we're trying to eat our food and having the response that sends signals to our brain as we're chewing food to say, hey, I'm starting to get fuller, until that meter goes up where we're fully full and satisfied. As for drinking something, it's a lot easier to consume it as we're drinking the liquid version of it and not feel as full based off of it. So the considerations for that is if someone is really struggling with staying fuller for longer periods of time and they are thinking that the meal replacement shake is going to address that issue, unfortunately, that's generally not the case. A story about that is when my brother needed to lose 30 pounds in order to make it for his Navy boot camp reserves weight limit. He was just miserable, like drinking the inshore shakes, drinking the slim fast shakes, and all these different meal replacement drinks to try and lose weight as quickly as he can so that he can participate in boot camp appropriately. He just struggled with feeling full enough for longer periods of time. He had horrendous cravings and he was miserable and horrible. And after he was done losing, the weight ended up coming back again as he started eating foods again because he didn't solve the root issue or the root cause of that situation, which the issue is not to use a meal replacement shake for weight loss, for blood sugar management, etc., etc. And the reason why for that is because if someone doesn't feel full or satisfied after they're eating their meal or drinking their meal, then they're going to eat more food later on throughout the day, over consuming the calories, and that excess calories gets then converted into fat, and that fat can increase the insulin resistance, thus leading to more of the higher blood sugar levels because of those issues. So the main things to consider from that is it appropriate per se? And generally, whenever I'm looking at those slim fast shakes, there generally isn't that much protein, there is not that much fiber, and it makes it tougher for someone to feel for longer if those nutrients are not in there. Because proteins are highly satiating, so they make us feel fuller for faster, as well as fiber. Don't get me wrong, I think meal replacement shakes have a time and place where for some people, if they're on a quick run and they can't get a proper meal in, then sure, using a meal replacement shake could be good in that situation. But for some people who chronically feel hungry all the time, I wouldn't really recommend a meal replacement shake. Instead, having the actual physical form of the food and practicing mindful eating, where someone takes a bite, they chew it up, appreciate the texture of the food, appreciate the flavor of the food. That way, it'll allow the brain to have positive hormones that is sent out to then influence how full we feel. Then taking a drink of water after each bite and continually doing that, slowing our pace down, can actually improve how full we feel, can improve blood sugar levels because we're decreasing the amount of stress hormones and having a better time with a balanced meal profile, if that works for that person, of course. My recommendations for those people who feel hungry all the time and are struggling with that, meal replacement shakes is not the answer. Instead, having the actual physical form of the food would be better. Just take your time with eating it and be sure to increase the amount of lean protein so that one can feel fuller for longer, and increasing the amount of fiber that's there. Generally, the fiber is the issue for people to get in because maybe the foods that they have, it has way too many calories, like chia seeds. It can be easy to overeat them. So instead of having to do that, that's when I'd recommend maybe it's time to use a liquid version of the fiber. So maybe using a fiber supplement, mixing it with water, letting it slush up a bit so it's a more solid liquid solution. To drink that to get the fiber goals, that can be a way to mix and match to allow someone to get what they need. As for protein, One can also do that as well if they're lacking on their protein goals and they need more like protein. Using a whey supplement or using plant-based supplements for the protein can be helpful too. However, the things about it is if someone does want to feel fuller for longer for those periods of time, then having the least processed version of that food, of that protein, will actually help a lot better in the long run. Because by us chewing, as I mentioned before, it helps releases more of the hormones in our body to let us know when we're full a lot faster compared to just drinking the liquid version of it. So with that, with the proteins, if someone is able to have the chicken into bite-sized pieces, that's perfect. If it's like the ground version of it, completely okay. I would generally recommend the less processed version of it so that it's easier for us to feel fuller for faster. Because if we think about it, the more processed something is, the closer it is to being in that liquid form of it, and making it easier to consume it and maybe not feeling as full later on throughout the day. Other things to help address the hunger and improving the blood sugars throughout the day and preventing overeating is anytime someone eats their food, and if they still feel hungry, try waiting for 15 minutes, drinking some water, going for a walk. And if someone still feels hungry, then of course having that lean protein source, having some fiber, that'll help feel fuller for longer and improving one's ability to maintain their health appropriately. Other things that's been shown to be helpful too in managing those hunger cues is, of course, working out and increasing the amount of physical activity, because that can actually increase our body's hormones to tell us how that we are full and satiated by increasing how sensitive we are to those hormones to help us feel full. This hormone is called leptin, and having an increased leptin sensitivity helps us feel fuller for longer, reduces our stress, and downstream wise improves our blood sugars appropriately. So in general, another thing to be considerate of whenever drinking a liquid meal or a meal replacement shake is, since it's more processed, that means it's more easily digestible. So that means the blood sugar spikes can be faster compared to the unprocessed version of it. And again, I will say too, fiber and protein does play an influence on it. So if there is more fiber in there, more protein in there, no matter what form it is, it will blunt how high it spikes up. And doing that physical activity will also help lower those blood sugar spikes as well. So be mindful of what situation one is in to see if a meal replacement shake is better for someone or if having the actual meal and food is better. It's better to try and have an ideal and optimal like caloric balance. If someone's struggling to figure out what their calorie balance is, they could use the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation to assess generally how many calories they need to be in a maintenance. And it could be off by 200 to 500 calories. So just experimenting with that weight, really measuring their foods to tracking the calories can be helpful in that matter. And I will say too, a lot of the foods that are out there that people get, it's really smart to look at the packaging to see, okay, what is the nutritional information for this? Like how much of the content is on there? Because a muffin compared to a full-blown meal that has lean protein, that has rice, that has vegetables on the side, those could be equal in calories. And the difference is one is a lot more processed. Again, I'm not bagging on processed things. There's always a time and place for it, and it depends on people's situation and goals. But with that, someone can have a more satiating meal compared to that muffin for the amount of calories that's available for it, and as well as blood sugar balance and stability, because the muffin doesn't have that much protein, doesn't have that much fiber, whereas the other plate with the protein and the broccoli can help blunt how high the spike can go when they're having rice with it. And it just helps out in that way. For some people, if they need a higher blood sugar level because they're having a hypoglycemic episode, or if it's just below the standards, then having that muffin would be helpful to get it back up into ranges more appropriately. And of course, eating some fiber and protein to stabilize it where it's at is also going to be super helpful too. So anyways, there's that information for someone if they are wanting to increase the amount of calories that they have or increase their blood sugars more appropriately, or if they had a bariatric surgery or some other surgeries where they cannot have a solid food or they're restricted on how much food that they can have entirely, then maybe a meal replacement shake or having a liquid version of a food might be the better alternative. Again, talk with your doctor to see what works better for you and go from there. This is just for educational purposes only and not medical advice, just things that I found from my personal experience and with my family's experience and based off my clinical practice as a diabetes coach. And for those who are wanting to have more stable blood sugars, feeling fuller for longer, then having the actual meals would probably be a better choice for those with that. So up to you to decide of which one's better or which one's not. I generally would lean more towards the foods that are minimally processed or less processed because that will help me feel fuller for longer. And then for those that are more processed, I would generally have those whenever I need to increase the amount of calories or I find it hard to actually get the actual substance of it. Like fiber, for example, I'd rather get more of that processed version of it because it's a lot easier to get more fiber in that way to meet my nutritional goals. Same thing with protein. Whenever I ate as much protein as I can, but now I need some more, supplementing it is also a good way to go about it. So it depends on what one's individual goals are, and there's always a time and place for everything. And to further define it for those who are thinking, oh, processed food's all bad and everything. Technically, the nutritional shakes that people have or the vegetable stuff that they put in a blender, that becomes ultra processed. So it's not a bad thing. It's just being smart about it. As I said before, anything that's processed, it generally increases how quickly it can be absorbed. So having someone with low blood sugars, that's great because they need to raise their blood sugars quickly. It's something that's faster absorbing. Or if they're running a marathon or they are going on a walk or any situations where it requires more blood sugars for the demand and dips them to become lower, then having those extra blood sugars available can help get that back into the ranges appropriately. But if they're just going throughout their day-to-day process and someone doesn't exercise that much, then having more of that whole food version would be a lot better so that they can feel fuller for longer, have more stable blood sugars by consuming less calories. So it's decreasing the amount that they overconsume, thus decreasing the amount of weight gain from fat mass that's going to occur and decreasing their insulin resistance so that they can have better blood sugars. Anyways, thank you all so much for tuning into this video of which would be better in those situations. Figure out which ones works best for you and go from there. I generally like to go with the mixture as well, where I would try to have as much of the whole food version of the things that I can that's minimally processed. And then for the things that I need to supplement it with, I generally try to have the processed version of it or the powder form of it so that I can meet the goals that I have and make sure that I'm receiving the nutrients that I need, feeling as full as possible, and having a balanced approach with it. Nothing's good or bad. It's more about when do we need to use it and how much is going to be consumed and the timing of it. So with all those variables, if they make sense, give it a try. If it doesn't, then focus on the things that would work better for you. And of course, if it doesn't work the first time, something that is good, then generally giving it more attempts until it becomes a habit is going to be a good thing and rewarding ourselves for it. So anyways, thank you all so much for tuning into this video. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, sharing this with someone that you think it'd be helpful for, subscribing if you haven't already, clicking that notification bell, that'd be awesome. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. I'd love to interact with y'all. Anyways, see you in the next video.